Good morning, everybody. What I will try to do in the next 20 minutes or so is to take us a little bit through the global bioimaging journey from its outset to the current day, and also what we're trying to do in the future. So I try to move the slides. I borrowed this slide from Jan, actually, because I think the best and only way probably to introduce global bioimaging is to highlight the importance of imaging technologies, which are these transformative technologies that is really influencing life science deeply in the recent years, for the past decade, and is expected to do so for the years to come. And I think we can say that it's opening a new era in life sciences, which is exemplified by the fact that in the recent years we had 2 Nobel Prizes for 2 new disruptive imaging technologies for super resolution and cryo-electron microscopy. And thanks to these technologies, which are also biological technologies, but we have equivalent important developments in the medical field that are allowing the scientific community to do discoveries that were unthinkable just a decade ago. A few of the scientific community have access to these disruptive technologies in the laboratories, in their institutes. Unfortunately, not everybody does. These technologies are quite expensive. To operate them requires very skilled professionals, and not everybody has access to them. So across the globe, including Europe, we have tried to think of ways to make them available to the broader scientific community. And one way to do that is to start establishing research infrastructures. I quite like this parallelism that has been made in the European Charter for Access to Research Infrastructure, that highlights how research infrastructure to the scientific community as important as public infrastructure for the civil societies. They're really enabling us to carry out high-level research. So in Europe, much longer before I joined the EMBL team, we started thinking of how we could create such an infrastructure, and we set out to create EoEIV, which is the pan-European research infrastructure that combines biological and biomedical imaging technologies. Just a very quick word on EoEIV. We expect to become a legal entity within the end of the year. We will be a European Research Infrastructure Consortium, and what the research infrastructure does is provide access to biological and biomedical imaging technologies across Europe. Physical access, so researchers with a research question in an area of Europe or even beyond who cannot access the technology he or she needs to answer that question can apply to EoEIV and access that instrument, but can also make use of the support from expert technical staff who will help them run the experiment and achieve the answer they're looking for. We also provide image data services via archives and analysis tool, and we have a working group also in global bioimaging on this topic. We will have a session afterwards, also this afternoon. And we also provide training opportunities in imaging, both for the users and the core facility staff. So at some point in the building of EoEIV, the team started looking at other examples across the globe, and I think this is the moment where global bioimaging maybe was seeded. There was 2 collaboration frameworks that were signed in 2012 with the Australian Microscopy and Microanalysis Research Facility, which is now Microscopy Australia, and with India Bioimaging, who was also founded because of the examples that were being built around the world. And thankfully, international scientific cooperation was high on the European agenda, has continued to be over the years. And I just put here one of the documents that talk about how Europe wants to be open to the world. This is a publication of 2016 that is called Open Innovation, Open Science, Open to the World. And this has continued to have interest within, to raise interest within the European partners, and it's also international cooperation, one of the 5 future policy priorities of the European Union for the 5 years to come. So, thanks to this interest, there was a program in the Horizon 2020 framework program for research and innovation that allowed Global BioImaging, coordinated by EMBL, which at the time was the coordinator of the preparatory phases of Global BioImaging, to get an award for 3 years to build Global BioImaging. We received 1.8 million euros. This is more or less the time when I came on board as the project manager of this project. We had 7 European beneficiaries and Australia and India as associated partners. And then we had some other partners, which are Argentina, Japan, South Africa, and the USA. So we started off with basically 4, 5, 6, 7 partners. The objectives of Global BioImaging as a project were to bring imaging communities together. We started realizing that the problems that we have and the challenges that we have in Europe are the challenges that everybody has over the world, obviously adapted to the national situation, but that bringing forces together, we could really start addressing them better. So we set off to build an international network of imaging infrastructure, and to do that, we started having workshops such as this one to bring people like the community together from around the globe. We started preparing some training courses which were delivered in the course of the project. We started the staff exchange program, which we call the shadowing program. I have a slide afterwards on that. And also some work to build common virtual tools, both for technology training and for image data, and also development and publishing of international recommendations. So I think the cornerstones of the Global BioImaging project and now network have really been this exchange of experience workshops. We started in 2016 at the EMBL. We have a theme generally for each of the workshops. We started with the exchange of best practices to kick off all the activities, and also we started really working on the objectives that we had, so to design the training courses in 2016 that then they were later delivered. We continued on in India in 2017. The topic at the time was open user access policy, and led to an international recommendation that is published as a deliverable of the EC project. Continued last year in Sydney, working on quality management policies and also on the sustainability of the Global BioImaging network. The quality management work led to an international recommendation, and the sustainability work, I think, led to where we are today. The funding was finishing. We were all very well aware of that, but there was so much interest from the community that we decided to continue. And all the partners are currently contributing in kind their time and their work and their efforts to keep this network alive. So this has led us to today, to the EoE IV workshop, which focuses on career path for facility staff. Obviously, thanks to Graham, again, for hosting us, and thanks to the sponsors who made the workshop possible. But we're working with funding ad hoc at the moment. And next year we will kindly be hosted by ABIS in Japan in September 2020. And I hope to see many of you there. The topic of the workshop will be pre-publication of image data management and processing. So a couple of more details about what the project has delivered. We had, in the lifetime of the grant, 5 training courses. The first 4 were foreseen when the grant was written. They focus on facility management and operation of imaging core facilities and on challenges in image data analysis. They involve generally about 20 participants. They're very well received by the scientific community, so much so that during the course of the project, because we had some fundings that also could be used, and thanks to the contribution of the Japanese infrastructure, we decided to have a fifth course on bioimage analysis, which took place in Okinawa in November last year. And this is probably the first example of how this collaborative spirit could really work and deliver something of high quality. So we were inspired by this, and also by other things that happened during the course of the project. I mentioned we had a staff exchange program called the shadowing program. During the lifetime of the grant, we had 3 rounds of calls. We were able to award travel grants to the participants. And the way it worked during the project, because it started off from a European grant based on collaboration agreements with India and Australia, we could allow travel only from Europe to Australia or India or vice versa. It's the funders who wanted to see benefits to the European community. So we had quite a high number of applications. We could assign this many travel grants. But we started seeing that people decided to travel anyway, even without a travel grant. And again, this was very inspirational for us. They were finding their own funding and using our infrastructure, our network, and just traveling. And the staff always was very supportive of the program, said that it was great, that helped improving their skills, was bringing new ideas on the way they could manage their facility, and in some cases even started international collaboration. So this is why, at the end of the project, we decided that we will continue with the shadowing program. So this is the homepage of our website. You can see here that we have a button on shadowing. If you click on that, you have a list of about 20 facilities across the globe who offer in-kind shadowing programs to applicants. This is a continuous program. We don't have deadlines anymore because we don't have travel grants to assign. So it can be managed continuously. The hosting facilities are all Global BioImaging partners or part of the network. The visitors can come from everywhere now, but they need to travel at their own cost. And this program is managed in kind. Alessandra and I do the work with this. Maybe I go back one slide. I thought I had put another one. I wanted to show here that this program is going. This number is inverted. So we have 6 applications. We have had 6 applications so far. The program opened in April, and we have 5 that seem like the travel is going to go through. One person from Canada actually had to withdraw because he didn't have the funding. But 3 have been decided that the visit will take place, we're in process. So we're looking for funding here to be able to offer travel grants to those who are interested in traveling but can't afford it. So I go back forward now. So I didn't say my last modification, sorry for this. Another thing that was done thanks to project funding was the update of the insertion of a new module in the SingaScope virtual training platform, which is a Microscopy Australia resource. And thanks to the collaboration between Global BioImaging and Microscopy Australia, we were able to add a new module for super resolution microscopy. We also add the preparation of an image tool resource, which is an index of open source analysis softwares. There is a website. Jason can tell you all about it. And this was so successful that we actually had a recognition from the European Commission. So the project was showcased at the end of last year in December as a success story. And this is very rewarding, of course, for all of us, but it's also encouraging and makes us think again that we should continue this. So this is where we are at the present time. The number of partners have grown. we have witnessed the birth of other national community. We will have the signature of 2 new collaboration agreements afterwards with Global BioImaging and SingaScope. It's actually continuing to grow. We have people that join EoEs, new countries, new representatives from new countries join these workshops every year and seem to be quite enthusiastic. So the reason why we're growing and we're still alive has been explored last year in Sydney. And we had lots of conversation of whether we should keep this alive and why and how. And I think the benefit that everybody sees in this is definitely networking and learning from others and coming together in these meetings and exchanging our opinion. But we also were recognized as an inspiration to organize community nationally. I think we have examples, even sitting in this room. We are promoting values and policies like the values of open access to imaging technologies, and this helps the communities to organize themselves and to have more argument to bring to their own national communities, but also to their funders. And as we are working on international recommendations, we are helping the development of programs according to national standards. I think this is probably one of the most important points. International engagements is seen by all of our funders as something that gives confidence to them that they're investing in the right thing, because this is not happening only on their own soil, but everywhere around the globe. So I think it's very important that this point is made here. I mentioned that we have international recommendations. We have produced 4 in the course of the grant in 2017-2018. They currently published on the Global BioImaging website in the form of deliverables that were submitted to the European Commission, but we're working further on them. The image data standards and open access repositories one is being taken care of by the working group that has been created and that will present afterwards. There is also a working group on quality assurance and management. And the idea is that we will polish them further and hopefully even manage to publish them, or at least some of them, in peer-reviewed journals, so that this, they can be used directly by the communities everywhere to learn from what is the international experience, but also bring them maybe to the deans of the university and argue for imaging technologies. I mentioned we have a collaboration agreement. Currently, we have 4 in place. Because of the structure of Global BioImaging at the beginning, they will involve Euro BioImaging. There we have one with Microscopy Australia, with the National Imaging Facility in Australia, with India BioImaging, and with ABC in Japan. And later on, 2 more will be signed with SingaScope and with Canada BioImaging. But we've also decided that we would like to have something that binds us all together. So we're working in the management board of Global BioImaging towards a shared MOU, which will be non-legally binding, but that will be the first formal steps to show that this network actually exists. I mentioned that there are working groups. So this is again a decision that was taken last year in Sydney. We decided that because the project structure would not be there any longer as the grant was finishing, we would create ad hoc working group. And we have 5. The first one is on career development for imaging core facility staff. It's chaired by Graham and has delivered this workshop. We'll also continue its work after the workshop and hopefully publish an international recommendation on this topic. We have one on image data management, chaired by Jason Swedlow and Shuichi Onami, which we'll present afterwards. One on societal impact of imaging research infrastructure, co-chaired by Claire and Antje. one on quality management, which is chaired by Julie Rothacker from Australia, and one on plan for long-term sustainability of global bioimaging that I am chairing. And yesterday in the management board, we decided that we need a new working group. At the moment, this network mostly connects infrastructure that work with microscopy techniques in biological imaging, and we want to increase the involvement of the biomedical community. So Graham Galloway is chairing this working group. If you have any good contacts, or if you're in part of the biomedical community and want to join his efforts, he's there. Please do so. And regarding the business plan, I'm going to say a couple of words. We are working on acquiring new funding. We have identified that it's unlikely that in the short term we will receive another big grant as we did in the past. So we have tried to break it down to what are the activities that help creating this global bioimaging added value. Of course, we need coordination, which is the backbone of this, but also we want to deliver more training courses. Unfortunately, during this year, this was not possible to do because a dedicated person was missing. This is quite a lot of work. We want to continue delivering the shadowing program, but we're looking for means to allow travel grants and people without funding to actually travel. We want to continue the EoE workshops. We are very fortunate that ABIS is hosting us next year. We anyway need always to look for funding for those. We keep working on international research infrastructure policies and recommendation, and we're preparing a document that we can then present to the funders for this. I think I just want to continue, to conclude, sorry, with this picture, because every year at the Exchange of Experience workshop, we take a group picture, as we did yesterday, and this network is really about the people and about what the people, the value that they see in this and their contribution. So I think the added value of global bioimaging is bringing all of us together, as we already said many times. So with this, I'd like to conclude. We have a Twitter channel, and we have a website. You can follow us. We try to keep it as updated as possible with the really limited resources that we have available. But we definitely publish there the most important things that are happening in the community. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Federica. I think we have time maybe for a few questions, if there are, for Federica. And before we start the discussion, I just want to add one item to your excellent presentation, which out of your usual modesty you didn't comment about, but in the very nice Greek temple that builds the added value for global bioimaging, there is a base layer of coordination without which nothing happens, and that's you. And so I think we should really acknowledge how important that is to keep everything together. I think that's a question. Yeah.
That was a terrific presentation. It strikes me, looking at that, I mean, you've captured the global community. You've also captured a number of major institutions across the globe, as well as major networks coordinating the activities, whether it be biomedical imaging or whether it be microscopy. This would be a golden opportunity to have a coordinated approach into industry to fund this. You know, and I think if you're looking at some of the major players, the Siemens, the GEs, the Thermo Fishers, the NVIDIAs, a business case around the global community and what that global community actually spends of those industries, I think could be very compelling to get that sustainable funding as you move forward.
I think that's a very good comment. I think definitely support from industry is very welcome. I mean, I think we all realize that they do support our national activities already, often quite generously, and also our training activities. But I think we have representatives from industry here in this room today, and we had that also at many of the past workshops, and I think there really is a level of international value that drives all of this forward, as Federica very well explained, that I think industry is also very much supportive of and very interested. And I think especially the areas of training and data at the moment are very much on their agendas as well. Absolutely very welcome.
So, another area like that are the national labs, and I just attended a workshop at CERN. They came to the U.S. on data management, and they are funded, I think, through a similar Horizon 2020 project. And I'm wondering if there's opportunities to partner outside of the life science field with other areas in the Horizon 2020 program to look for commonality. And national labs are a good place for us to build the pipeline. In the U.S., I've had conversations, and with Canada as well, having given a talk to the National Organization of National Labs. They're looking for a pipeline of talent. I think core facilities are one of the places that we might be able to help with.
Yeah, that's a good comment.
I think EoE IV is an example of that. So it's a great comment, and part of Horizon 2020 is a trans research infrastructure project called EoE IV. It's to build a scientific cloud capability for Europe and beyond, and Global BioImaging, and I think all of the research infrastructure. I'm looking at my colleagues for, well, at least most of the research infrastructure in Europe are participating in that. It's cross-cutting across all of the domains of
So I will come briefly to that in the next session on the data working group, what the European cloud compute initiatives are, and also they are cross-cutting, but they are European. And so the national labs typically are big resources. They serve communities, but they often don't see themselves as global in outreach. So the big intergovernmental organizations are an exception. So CERN is a sister organization to EMBL, yeah, and so they really have a global outreach of member states and user communities, as do we, and so we see this as a mission for the organization. But most of the big national labs, like in the US, are gone, so they don't have this global reach, and therefore also in the support structure and in funding opportunities for such activities, that is an extra case one has to make. Yeah. So I think that's something that we as a community need to think about. At this really international level, who are the entities that are in a position to support that? Because the added value, I think, is obvious, but some of the positions, just because of their structure and what they are designed to do, have difficulty supporting that. Okay, I think if there are no additional questions and comments, then I would like to thank Federica again very much.